reserve some time for that. If you have any questions, there's a question box in your webinar. You should be able to ask that question here. Me and my associate, Aditya, will try to answer all your questions that you may have, but I see it's a very healthy audience here. So if there are a lot of questions and if you're not able to get to any questions, we will definitely get back to you via email. Okay, so with that said, let's get started with the first agenda item. Okay, so we have Flashcard, which is iteration. Also, it is alternatively used with the term sprint. Sprint is more of a Scrum terminology, but at a high level in Agile, iteration is the general terminology that is used. So an iteration is a time box duration during which a planned or committed work is executed to produce a deliverable that is releasable and is of value to customer. Okay, so I've highlighted the key points here. Okay, releasable and is of value. Also, keep in mind the iteration is time boxed. Okay, and we learned last week that for Scrum, this time box duration can be 1 to 4 weeks. Okay, if you are new to Agile, you are trying to do that transformation in your work, I suggest that you start with a time box duration of 2 weeks. Okay, it is a good place to start. Okay, and then you can adjust as you go along. Okay, so again, it is a time box duration during which a planned, so you did do the planning before you start the iteration or sprint, during which a planned work is executed to produce a deliverable that is releasable and is of value to customer. So everything that you produce at the end of a sprint should be in a form that can be shipped to customer. Okay, it should be releasable and it also should add value to what you want to give to customer. Okay, very important. Also, just a side note on that, iterations in plural form is the act of doing the same time boxed effort over and over. Okay, so as we all know, Agile is an iterative practice. By that, you mean that you run iterations over and over and you learn as you go along, which segues into the next topic that we are going to look at, which is the feedbacks in Agile. Okay. Agile is obsessed with feedbacks. Okay, and we all know it is not just in the software development, in the projects around the world, cross-cutting domains. We we have to have positive feedback loops. Okay, feedbacks help us learn from the mistakes that we have made. It helps us understand what the customer needs are, especially in these times where the customer needs, they are so dynamic. It is very important to understand the market. Okay, so it helps us, the iterative form helps us go to market quicker, and it also helps us give customers what they really need and give customers what would help them make more profit. If your customers make more profit, you make more profit. It's simple as that. So feedback at every level is very important. So I've shared this wonderful slide from one of the books, very famous XP books, and it shows how the feedback loops they work in XP. XP is extreme programming, is one of the agile methodologies that is out there. It was actually the first agile methodology that was invented off of the agile practices, even though Scrum is more popular now. However, these feedback loops are not only limited to XP. These can be considered as a general feedback mechanism, feedback engine per se, uh, for everything that is under the umbrella of Agile. Okay, so I'm going to start from the top. So what you see here is that you have a release plan. Okay, The release plan feedback is usually coming at the frequency of months. Okay, it is not unusual, especially for software industry, for a product based organizations um, to do their releases every quarter. Okay, so if you start from the strategy of the company level, of the organization level, there could be, strategy of the of an organization usually is revisited on an yearly level. Then you have the release plan, which is usually quarterly level. Okay, so you have in every few months you do a release. Okay, so you're getting a feedback at the release level. A release meaning shipping the deliverables to the customer, as we all know. Then we have the iteration plan. So you, because you're doing iterative development, you are getting feedback at the end of every iteration. At the end of iteration, if you remember, we do a sprint demo or an iteration demo where we understand, what we committed and what we delivered, uh, how well it is working. Um, and we also do retro, which is a great, um, uh, very important feedback technique, retro meetings. So you're getting a feedback at the end of every iteration, which can be with the frequency of weeks. Okay, so if you're doing an iteration of 2 weeks, every 2 weeks you're getting a feedback of what you produced in those 2 weeks and how you can do it better in the next iteration, and so on. Okay. Then you have the acceptance tests. So we haven't really talked about the acceptance test at all. And because it's we're still starting the series, so we'll come across very new things, new artifacts. So acceptance tests, um, they they have been existing for the longest time. They have been there in the software industry and non-software industry domains as well. uh, Usually they are linked directly with UAT, user acceptance testing. In Agile, it is also close to UAT. However, the acceptance tests, they have a broader and they have a much deeper commitment from the client. Okay, so one of the important things in Agile in general is that it engages client uh, in doing development, in doing the execution of the product or project. It is very important that the clients, they understand that they should be giving us feedback on a regular basis, and it is not just a requirement from the development team point of view. It is a requirement, this is something that is going to benefit the customers themselves, because at the end of the whole cycle, of the whole product cycle, at the end of the release or at the end of the product, the customers, they want what is really going to help them make profits. Okay, so the acceptance tests are a commitment that we expect from customer, and customers, they can be internal customers or external customers. Okay, a lot of time I get this question, is it really possible to get feedback from customers at all times? There could be projects and products where it is not always, the customers are not very easily accessible. However, it is a commitment that we have to negotiate as a part of an agile project or an agile charter, that the customers, they would supply us with acceptance tests. And these acceptance tests, they are coming in at regular intervals. As you can see, if your iteration is 2 weeks long, the acceptance tests, they are coming in at much more at a much higher frequency, which is within the days. Okay, so as you're writing stories, as you're writing tasks, as you're building or executing stories, we need acceptance tests. Okay, so acceptance tests, they are coming in with a frequency of days. Okay, in agile development. Then we have the stand-up meetings. I think we all know, in terms of agile, whoever is aware of agile, they know what stand-up meetings are. um, Stand-up meetings, they are also called daily stand-ups because they happen on a daily frequency. um, that is another way of getting feedback. um, uh, I can take a whole hour talking about the stand-up meetings and what the agenda is. But in the interest of time, a lot of people make this mistake thinking that the stand-up meetings are status reporting meeting. They are not. Okay, status can be gathered from various different tools and different mechanisms. The real core advantage of having a stand-up meeting is knowledge sharing. Okay, as myself working in a team of 7 or 10 people, I would like to know what everybody else is up to. I don't have to have a deep knowledge, but if there is any kind of collaboration that may be needed, I have to have a feeling of belongingness. Not only that, one of the agenda for stand-up meeting is to find out if anyone in team is blocked. Okay, so if there's something that is blocking somebody, it comes up in the stand-up meeting, and a facilitator or a scrum master or an agile coach or a manager can take action to make sure that the member who's blocked is able to unblock himself, herself, or if there's any breakout session needed, if there is some kind of collaboration that is needed from inside or outside the team, uh, and be able to discover any problems or any risks ahead of time. Okay, so the agenda for stand-up meeting is not status reporting. Okay, it is knowledge sharing. Okay, then we have the pair negotiation. Okay, pair negotiation in um, in in general terms is close to pair programming, if those of you who are aware of XP, but it is kind of a pair solutioning, and it is collaborative effort uh, within the team, um, on a daily basis, or on on when you're doing execution in a sprint on a daily basis. As a team member, you will have to collaborate with product owner, with analysts, which with architects, with QA engineers, with developers. So there's a lot of communication that happens. Not just communication, there's also a lot of collaborative effort that goes on, not just coordination. Collaboration is a very, very big term, and a term that has an exercise that has a lot of gravity in agile. Okay, so collaboration is what is needed at all times in agile teams. Okay, whenever you're doing problem solving, correct, problem solving is not an individual's effort. As a leader, as a facilitator, one has to realize that two heads are better than one, and there's a lot of pair negotiation that happens, especially when we are talking about product owner working with developers or working with QA engineers. There's a lot of negotiation that happens around the story, a lot of conversation that happens around the story. So again, pair negotiation is again a very, very good way of taking feedback from the stakeholders within a team. Then we have the unit tests. Unit tests in software engineering are very, very important. Okay, this is some area that had been ignored for the longest time in software engineering, and very recently, people have realized the importance of unit tests, because without unit tests, without code coverage, it is almost impossible to draw metrics at the code level. Okay, so I am a J2E architect, and I do programming on a day-to-day basis, and I use JUnit as my unit testing tool for Java language very extensively. I cannot imagine myself working without it. Unit tests in Agile, they are done using a technique called test-driven development, TDD. Some of you may have heard that term already, but I have a blog written just on TDD, and I can talk about TDD. Maybe I should take TDD as one of the topics in one of these free Friday webinar series. But test-driven development is a very, very elegant uh, agile practice where one can see benefits immediately, especially all the programmers. So if you are managers, if you're facilitators or aspiring to be agile coaches, uh, it is important for you to understand the power of test driven development, which is at the unit test level. Okay, so the unit testing in test driven development, you write the failing test cases first. Okay, so you're writing the test cases first, and then you're writing code to do the implementation. Okay, and then you refactor that code and then iterate through the same cycle. Okay, so the important thing here is you're writing failing test cases first. Why it helps? From a development point of view, it gives you an understanding of what before you try to answer how. Okay, these days we all do, at least in software development, we all do programming in object oriented concepts. It's important, and those of you who are seasoned programmer or seasoned project or product managers, you understand the importance of doing class level designing, low level designing. Many a times that exercise is just completely skipped, and the developers, they just start writing code right away. Okay, but it's important to understand how the piece that you're going to write here forth is going to fit into the grand scheme of things, where it is going to fit in the big picture. It is very important, and test driven development really helps um, this practice, this uh, the way code is produced at the end of a story completion. And then we have the pair programming. Pair programming is another very uh, it's a practice that is used very extensively if you're using XP. I love pair programming. I At any opportunity I try to do pair programming. For those of you who are not familiar with it, what it means is that there are two programmers working on one computer, one desk, and trying to write code. It doesn't mean that both of them are writing code together. However, the code is getting reviewed as it is written. So somebody, if I'm doing programming, my peer or my peer who's my pair in the pair programming practice would be looking at how I'm writing my code. If I have created the right interfaces, if I have. Yeah, Aditya, you said something. Is there a noise in the background? Okay, hold on. Oh, okay. All right, I'll try to talk a little bit louder. Okay. All right, so I was talking about pair programming. If I'm writing code as a programmer on my computer, and there's somebody who's sitting with me trying to look at what code I'm writing, it gives me feedback within seconds. So my code is getting reviewed at the time I'm writing it. There have been there are certain concepts that are attached with pair programming, but I'm not going to go into the details of that. However, I would like to emphasize that pair programming is something, a practice that takes a little bit of discipline over time. Not everybody is open to having their code looked at while they're doing development. It is there's a lot of interpersonal skills that are needed in order to get the pair programming done right, in order to be to make pair programming be most productive. Okay, um, the place where I work at, the team that I have been working with, there have been instances where I have sat with programmers as a reviewer, as their pair while they're doing programming, and they haven't taken it very well. Okay, because of various reasons. So it is important that it is carefully selected. Also, I get a lot of questions asking. I know I'm talking a lot about pair programming, but it is something that it's a subject that is of great relevance in software development these days, especially from the feedback loops. As a manager, you would ask that, why do two people have to you're it is coming as a cost to you when there are two people writing one program. It has, based on the studies that have been done recently, um, organizations who have indulged themselves in pair programming, the review process have been so refined. It has the cost of doing development first and review later versus doing development and review together, in factoring in the resource cost. The cost of doing pair programming has been less. Okay, so it is not only has been less or at par. Okay, if you factor in the quality of code that is produced at the end, it is far better in terms of cost to quality ratio. So it has been statistically proven that pair programming, if done right, would always produce high quality code, which is of which will come to you as a cost benefit as well.
Anurag, there is an offline question.
Yes.
Anand has asked an offline question. Is it a pair programming aspect is expensive because two people are spending time on the same? Do you want to take it?
Yes. Pair programming, first of all, I mean, if you're looking at just the resource expense at that time, yes, it may appear as it is expensive, but studies have shown that it is not expensive, because if you're doing programming all alone, um, in a traditional way, you do programming and then somebody has to review your code. If nobody is reviewing your code, you have a much deeper problem in your execution process to begin with. But if you're doing programming first and then doing review later, and the
Or else even if one person is thinking, he needs to think, he need to design, and he need to code, probably he can do that coding part in a 16 hours. Two people can code it probably in 8 hours. It's not like exactly off, but I'm trying to say like two people are better, four eyes are better than two eyes. That's what they say in the
correct,
pair
correct.
programming.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
sometimes it might be two people are sitting, but like they are much faster rather than individual.
Yes, yes. And the biggest benefit is, yeah, that you're getting your code reviewed instantly within seconds, as you can see in the slide. You're getting
Exactly.
feedback within seconds,
Exactly.
okay, which is invaluable. Okay, okay. Just keep in mind that pair programming takes a lot of discipline. It has to be done right. If it is not done right, it can be disastrous. Okay, so um, this I'm.
Exactly. And also like the same, we have a similar question from Ravi.
Mhm.
And Ken is asking, like, is pair programming a common practice? Should we always plan for at least two programmers in a HR plan?
No.
It's a common practice in agile projects. So if you are setting up a plan, yes, and especially in Agile XP, I've seen it very many places where pair programming is used, and
Yeah.
if you
In
wanted
in
to plan, you had to plan it.
in XP, if you're doing extreme programming, if you're chosen extreme programming as your agile methodology, yes, then pair programming is a standard practice. However, there are also some constraints. Okay, pair programming these days, the teams are not co-located. If the programmers, they are not sitting at the same business location, programming location, it becomes difficult to do pair programming. There are tools available. There are, communication tools available that really assist. But yes, pair programming is a standard practice if you're doing XP. uh, it really, there are, once you start, my suggestion to whoever who has not done pair programming before or hasn't seen pair programming done in their teams is to experiment with it. Okay, budget for pair programming when you're building your project team if you're doing XP. uh, budget for it. See how it works for one release. Okay, if your release is a quarterly release, see how it works for 3 or 4 months. So that
Yeah,
would be my
and there is
suggestion.
one more.
Yes.
Yes, there is one more question from Q. And Q is asking that, like, for consultants, are they an expert level individuals? Then code review, should it be sufficient?
Um, Consultants. Okay, let me try
Even
to.
when you are deploying methodologies, how code review can be a later stage, rather than you can use. There are the tools. It is not absolutely necessary. Like, if you are a senior consultant and code review will be at the end, but like somebody needs to come and look at it, and it is how you deploy your projects. If you are using extreme programming, and by far, if you are not a agile senior agile person, then what we suggest is, like, I don't modify any one of agile practices, just use it as it is. Like, only the people who are using agile for a long time and they know agile in and out, how to modify that. And if there is an absolute necessary, then you can modify your agile practice. Otherwise, you don't have to modify the agile practice. Go by the books. And if you are a fresh agile team, then go by the books and pair programming and plan for that, and so that they will go and work on it. And
Yes.
I would never think that, like, you would put like a two extremely senior consultants on a same thing, and you pay $100 each and look at the same code. Probably that might not be the right option. Probably you can put like a one extremely senior consultant and one junior guy, so that, like, we are thinking in extreme programming. Two people are better than one. That is what, like, the idea over here.
Yes. 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 And this is what you said, Aditya, is exactly right. I think that should answer that question as well. Again, I'll come back to the same thing. Pair programming. It is something that is that when done right is of phenomenal advantage. Okay, so try to do it right. Try to find, and it takes a little bit of time. It's not as if you'll start reaping the benefit right off the bat. It will take a little bit of time to develop that skill in your team.
Yes, exactly. And because we do not understand what it is, many people think like, oh, okay, let me change it. And now let me change it. Yeah, let us go and do separately, process change. And that, like, think about it. And thousands of extreme programmers and extreme methodology developers developed this model. They thought about everything. So give it a chance, and don't modify the process. Just use it as they said, and slowly you will start getting the benefits. Then you will see the benefits in real time. You don't have to believe in the book. You can see the benefits in real time. And if it doesn't work, even after like a 4 or 5 iterations, then you can modify the process and suit to your project. So until then, like, this is the one what called all the newly starting agile practice shops. They always tend to change because they, number one, they don't understand it in depth, and they wanted a quick solutions. So for any reasons, they are trying to change it. So
Right.
don't change it until you really get the benefits of the agile.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, there is one more question. Are there any separate guidelines for the pair programming?
There are. I mean, there are tips to guidelining. I won't call them guidelines. Um, but yes, if you Google tips for pair programming, you'll find a lot of content in there. I think I have also written a blog of my own. I'll try to find it and distribute that to the group. Uh, but pair
Yeah,
programming,
we
as
will
long
send
as
that emails.
yeah, as long as you understand what the core of it and what you're trying to achieve by doing that, I think good programmers will get that very quickly. Okay, one thing that in my experience, I was doing an agile transformation for one of the enterprises, and I realized that one thing that I suggested them, which worked very well for them pertaining to pair programming, is that deploy pair programming for critical stories. Okay, If you don't have resources, if you don't have time, if you don't have plan to deploy pair programming for everything, try to deploy it for critical stories which have framework level changes, things that are complex, things that can cause a lot of damage, severe damage. Try to deploy pair
That's
programming at least for that.
that is wonderful suggestion. Wonderful suggestion.
Okay, so um, still talking a little bit more on the feedback loop. So you can see, I'll start from the top again. So you have release plan where your inputs are coming in a matter of few months. Then you have iteration plans where your feedback is coming in the matter of few weeks. Then you have acceptance tests. Okay, acceptance tests, just be careful that we have to negotiate them with the customer. Okay, so very important, very fundamental mindset change between traditional way of project management and agile way. Okay, customer is involved in the execution process. Okay, they have to be, and there is a very good reason why they should be, and they would see it very quickly as you start doing releases, as you start finishing iterations. So acceptance tests, you're getting feedback within days. Then you have stand-up meetings, which are at the daily level, pair negotiation, and unit tests, again, within hours and minutes. So unit tests, I'll just say a little bit more on unit tests. Remember, test-driven development. Okay, very, very, very key practice in Agile. Every time, if you think that it's test-driven development is one practice that you should not compromise on when you're doing agile transformation. You may compromise a little bit on stand-up meetings. You may compromise a little bit of flexibility on your iteration plan or release plan. Do not compromise on test-driven development. Okay, one of the biggest mistake teams make around the world when they're trying to do agile transformation, they just keep doing stand-up meetings. They they do iterations, but they do not do retro. They don't use this feedback that is coming in this whole engine to their advantage. If you're not doing that, you are not really being agile. Okay. So unit tests, you're getting feedback within minutes. Pair programming, feedback within seconds, and the code that gets produced at the end of this whole uh, engine, the feedback engine, uh, where feedback is coming at all this different level, at different frequency. The quality of code is phenomenal. Okay, it is something and you can see quality is instilled in agile at all these levels. There is no separate QA team, there is no separate QA department, there's no separate testing department. Okay, we are doing QA and testing at all these levels because of all the feedback that is coming in. Okay, doesn't really mean that you don't need QA engineers. You need QA engineers, you need test engineers, you need automation engineers. You need all the skill sets that are needed currently in the way projects and products are executed. You need all those skill sets. It's just the way the execution has changed so drastically, especially from the mindset, okay, that the quality is instilled at all these different levels. The code that will get produced at the end is going to be so high and superior in quality. Okay, so and that is what you really want in a software engineering. What you're producing is software. Okay, you're producing code. Even if you're
Anurag,
yeah.
can we assume that like in a traditional model, we have a exclusive separate quality testing team? In agile model, the quality testers are within the team itself.
Yes, everybody is in the team. Exactly
Is
right.
that the same?
Yes, yes. Everybody is in the team. Everybody is a part of team. There are no walls between analysts, developers, testers, or architects. There are no walls. They're all working together collaboratively on a daily basis. They are communicating, conversing multiple times. They may
So
be talking during the day.
analyst designs, and developer develops the code, and quality tester tests the code and whatever the model, either if you are using a pair programming or unit testing or stand-up meeting, whatever it is, and the code immediately get tested and it is verified already and move on fastly.
Exactly right. Yes, yes. Okay. So That's why, I mean, the whole concept of agile is so fundamentally based on all these feedback loops that we see here. So at any given time, if you're new to agile, you're trying to uh, you're trying to start executing projects in an agile way, look at this feedback loop slide. This will be shared, of course. Look at this food feedback loop diagram, and be convinced that you are what you're doing is the right way of doing execution, where you should be taking feedbacks, where you should be careful in choosing practices, what you should not be doing, what you should be doing. Okay, so very important. Feedbacks are everything. Okay, without feedback, you will not be able to improve yourself, and if you're not able to improve, you'll not be able to instill quality, instill value in the code that you're producing. Okay, any more questions? Aditya, for some reason, I'm not able to see the questions tab here. My go to webinar panel is
Yeah,
stuck.
I'm looking into that one.
Yeah.
Um, and Anand has a one more question. If we have a multiple agile teams in a project, and how integration test will be done in XP? So
Okay.
again, the code, how do you move, is totally different than which agile methodology that you are using. Integration test, there will be a code promotion and a code moving into one server to the other server that still have its own processes. The agile methodologies in XP is to deliver that particular feature, and there will be a still a integration team. They will be doing that integration testing. So don't think that like we are taking out of every other team in the company and it's only XP, but there is an integration still going on.
Yes, yes. There's a concept of continuous integration. What you said, Aditya, is right. There's a concept of continuous integration, okay, which I will be taking up. Well, I'll definitely be taking up because it is another, something I'm very passionate about. You are doing integration on a daily basis, maybe multiple times in a daily basis, versus in a traditional way of project execution where you build everything, and then after 3 months of building everything, you try to integrate everything, okay, and try to deploy. In agile, in continuous integration, you're trying to do integrations on a daily basis. You are not waiting to go, to by the end of sprint or by the end of iteration to do integration later. Okay, how many times we have come into problems where the code doesn't integrate? You spent 6 months, 3 months building something. Now you're trying to put everything together, and it doesn't compile, doesn't deploy. There are things that are missing. I'm sure all of us who has worked in a traditional way of projects, we have run into this problem. Okay, this is another thing that agile is really good about. Okay, you will catch integration problems immediately as they happen.
Anurag,
Yes.
if you give me like a, can you change the slide? And there are a quick polls that we wanted to conduct. Wonderful. Hold on.
Yeah.
No, that one. Okay, stay there, and let us conduct a small polls. It is polls are open to the team. Can you see the poll, everybody? Anurag, can you see it?
I can't see it, but it's probably because my go to webinar is stuck.
Yeah, people are. Now, can you see the screen, Anurag?
No, I think there's something wrong with the panel of the go to webinar for some reason. Let me try.
Probably it is hidden in the bottom.
Yeah, it's not letting me do anything at all. Oh, it's because there's something. Oh, I see it.
So Anurag, do you wanted to let us? Yeah, only 51% of the people answered it, and I request everybody answer the question. It's just like your knowledge. We are not going to measure anything. There are only 3 options. You can just pick up an option. Go for it. And trust me, we cannot track all the people who are answering and what, but like we can tell that like a suggestion. And only 68% of the people answered it, and I'm going to close this one pretty soon. Please click the one thing. Please go ahead, guys. Okay, done. Only 68% of the people answered it.
Okay, great.
Anurag, do you want to show your screen one more time?
Yes. So the correct answer is.
Hold on. Go ahead, Anurag. We close the poll.
Yes. So the correct answer is iteration. At the iteration level, you're getting feedback within weeks. Okay, which I see most of the people answered. Okay, stand-up meetings.
Okay.
They are on a daily basis. Okay, the frequency of stand-up meeting is daily. All right.
Okay.
So
and Anurag, one more question.
yes.
Go ahead. Anurag, can you see the question?
Yes.
And I will be closing this poll in another 20 seconds. Please answer it. Only 46% of the people answered. Only 54. Please go ahead. Click it. One of those. All right. I'm closing the poll. Only 58% of the people answered it. Anurag, do you want to talk about the TDD?
Yes. So the correct answer is unit tests. I think most of you got it right. Um, the again, unit testing again is a very important uh, exercise in software development, and test driven development is right at the heart of it. Okay, you write the failing test cases first, write code then to make them pass, and then do refactoring if needed. Okay, and then use that same cycle. So write failing test cases first, don't forget to do that, and then only write the implementation.
All right. Last question, Anurag.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. I launched the question.
I see it.
I'm going to close this poll in another 10 seconds. We just got only few answers. Go ahead, guys. Go. Go. All right. closing the poll. Anurag, do you want to talk?
Yes. So I think you all did very good on this question. Yes. Everything except for too many interruptions is are benefits of pair programming.
Exactly. And guys, like I formed these questions after listening to the Anurag's class. So it is exactly Anurag talked about other three benefits. So the one thing is which is not in the Anurag's conversation was like a too many interruptions. So that is not a benefit. So that's what, and 88% of the people answered that one right. Thank you.
Okay. So just a quick time check. We have about 10 minutes left for this whole webinar. I do want to cover the um, one of the agendas that is pertaining to the tools. So we have, I'm just going to collapse this. Okay. All right. So tempo. Okay. So
And Anurag, you need to share your desktop.
is it not shared? Oh, hold on. How's it now?
Yep, perfect.
Okay, great. So tempo is, last week we talked about Jira. And again, I think Aditya did a great job of clarifying that we are not associated with Jira. Okay. It is just one of the tools, one of the first tools that we picked that could be useful from Agile. There'll be many tools in this whole series. Tempo is another tool which has a plugin with Jira. So you can see, it has integration with Jira. Why this tool is of great use is because we all know that we have engineers and consultants and everybody in an organization fill out timesheets. Okay, so timesheets over a period of time have become very convoluted and a process problem. Okay, they rarely denote what we do, and especially from the invoicing and billing point of view, they are just a big mess. Okay, so it is, you know what tempo promotes is a work log. Okay, you will see timesheet related nomenclature in tempo, but it is really a work log. So integration of tempo with Jira is really great. I'm going to show you how it looks like, so that I'm a big fan of showing things, demoing things. So if you can see my screen, I'm showing it. It's a browser based again. So last week we looked at this dashboard. Okay, so those of you who were there last week would remember that there's this lovely dashboards that you can create, which are very rich in nature, very user interactive, that you can create in Jira. And the plugin, one of the plugins that you can, it is a commercial plugin, Tempo, which helps you log time. The way you would log time is, there are different perspectives, but I'm showing you the timesheet perspective. So I am working in this QoS team, as you can see my name here in Anurag Saxena, and you can see, for all these dates, how I have logged work. Okay, so it's not as if I go into Tempo and log work again. So you can see all these stories. So what I usually do is, end of the day, I say, okay, there was a story. I'm going to open one of the stories that I have been working on, really working on, not just for the demo purpose. Um, is 395. Okay.
Anurag, we have audio problem again.
Okay. How's it now? My mic
Okay, good.
was away from my mouth. So there is the story that I was working on, and what I would do is I would log work here in the story itself. So it's not as if I'm going into the timesheet. So as my own motivation, I want to see at the end of the day, how much time on which story did I spend time uh, all day today. Okay. So I would go and I would enter in today's date how much time I spent. So I've spent about 3 hours on the story already. Okay, so you can distinguish between how much you worked and how much you're billing, and then you can write a small description. Okay, dev testing, for example. Okay, and just click on log work. And if I go into tempo here in the timesheet perspective, it would automatically appear. Okay, Now, the beauty, okay, this is not some great magic. The beauty here is that work that I have logged in that story is actually going to show against my burn down chart in my Agile view. Okay, so if you remember, in iterations, as managers, as facilitators, and Agile coach, you would want to keep a tab on how your team is burning down effort every day. Okay, so these 3 hours that I entered logged here, they would automatically get contributed towards the Agile burn down chart. Okay, so I'm not really filling out timesheet here. I'm really doing a log of work against my burn down. Okay, very important. Another advantage of doing this, I'm going to just come back to my slideshow so that I don't miss any of these advantages. So we looked at how it is different, how it is integrated with Jira, how it is logging work instead of just filling out timesheets. Okay, planning. Okay, another very important advantage of using Tempo. Okay, so I can actually click on Monday here, 10th of June, and it will allow me to do plan time. Okay, so I can pick an issue. I can pick the same issue what I was working on because I haven't finished working on it yet, finish closing it yet. So on 10th June, again, I plan to spend 4 hours on it. Okay, continue dev tests. Okay, and I hit plan time. Okay, and you can see automatically there's an orange line. Let me just increase the font here. There's an orange line that appears here. Okay, which shows that these things are planned. Now, the beauty here is that when you're doing iteration planning, okay, based on your capacity, based on your every team member in your team can go in and plan their time for every day in future, okay, for the whole iteration. Okay, the advantage of doing that, the biggest advantage is that you are able to set due dates for the stories. Okay, because it will encourage communication between the teams. So you'll have to talk to the QA, will have to talk to developers, the developers will have to talk to product owners will have to talk to QA perhaps, and there'll be a lot of communication that will happen to understand when which story team members can work on which day. Based on that, they would plan time in Tempo, and that is a very, very deep, granular level planning for your whole iteration. Okay, so in an ideal team, for all these members, they would have time planned against their stories that they're going to work on each day. That way, you'll be able to foresee any problems as an iteration manager, as a agile coach, or scrum master of my team. I would like to see which stories are at risk every day. Okay, so if there's any risk of not being able to finish a story, I would be able to see it very quickly. If there is a slippage, if the team members are uh, not able to work against what they had planned for this iteration. Okay, that is a risk right there. Okay. Another advantage is that Tempo would allow management to, most of the times, the managers, they want to see how their team members are performing, how much effort they have put in against all these days, um, how much total, how much hours does it summate to. So managers, they have their own view. From the finance point of view, if finance team would like to see how many hours or how many dollars they have billed in a particular iteration. CTO would like to see, how many how many dollars they have spent for the whole project or the whole product. Okay, so there are different perspectives, and everything is integrated in one place, and it is all coming down from the very core artifact, which are the stories. Okay, everybody is working on stories. And the last benefit of using Tempo is that Tempo has a RESTful integration. Um, so there could be finance systems, billing systems, invoicing systems, etc., that can integrate bidirectionally with Tempo. Okay, at a technical level, it is a huge benefit from the integrations point of view. So you can be tracking work in a different system outside of Tempo, or you may be tracking work in Tempo, but you'll be doing billing or invoicing from a different system. So you can throw data back and forth, okay, between the two systems. Very important advantage. Okay, so Tempo is just another tool that helps us become more agile. Um, and with that, I'm going to conclude whatever agenda that I had for today. If there are any questions, please go ahead and type them in. Aditya and I will try to answer them. Aditya, you were trying to say something?
No, there were like a few audio issues, but like we're good.
Okay. Any questions on the feedback loops? I think we took
Uh,
a lot of questions in between already.
Shavari is asking, where does UAT fits in a feedback loop?
Okay. Very good question. Let me come back. I was hoping somebody would ask that question. Okay. So UAT, I think I did mention that word when I was talking about acceptance tests. Okay. So UAT, user acceptance test, is not really a separate exercise in Agile. Okay. UAT, if you think about it, what you're doing in UAT is the user has their scenarios and they want to see if our product is able to fulfill those scenarios and give expected results, right? So that thing falls in the acceptance test. Remember the negotiation that we need to have with the customer. So customer is providing their user acceptance test cases when when we are requesting them. So we are doing UAT within an iteration. Okay, great
Great,
benefit.
great. Anurag, and you got so many acclaims, and so many people are telling you that thanks, good one, great presentation. Thank you, everyone, guys.
Thank you, guys. There's also a recording which I'll be sharing. Aditya and I will find a way of sharing this with the whole group too.
All right, and also, and please continue your participation over here. Every Friday there will be a presentation from us, and please let